I'd like to speak briefly from the subject of return to your home. Return to your home. Now, really, tell your neighbor, why don't you just tell them, hey, why don't you go back home, Just tell them, why don't you go back home? Like, yeah, what are we doing here? Return to your home, right? Have any of you watched the Happy Gilmore movie? Anyone here? Yeah, good to see you. Happy Gilmore. All right, he gets to this point where Adam Sandler, right, he's got the golf hole right here, and the ball is like right here, and he's trying to put the ball into the hole, but he doesn't put it with enough force. Anyone play golf? You know golf, right? He's trying to hit the ball into the hole, and finally he gets frustrated, and he gets down onto the ball, and he says, why don't you go to your home, ball? Don't you want to go to your home? There's your home. Why don't you go to your home? And you're like, man, which church did I walk into today? Welcome to Alicante Church. And it's pretty interesting. It's funny in a golf movie to hear that line, to hear that sentence, and I'm not endorsing that film by any means, all right? Some of you are giving me this look like, oh, did he really do that? But in regards to your home, you're clearly not a golf ball. You are a person. You are someone who lives and abides in a culture, hopefully. And how many of you live in Alicante, but you would say, you know what, Alicante is not my home? How many of you, that's your story here tonight? You live in Alicante, but it's not your home. Well, the story that we're going to be reading tonight is one that is very impactful because Jesus is going to tell a man to go to his home and to stay in his home. And while Jesus many times tells us, go into all the world and make disciples, go into a country that I will show you when he's talking to Abraham, many times with God, we're on the move, but oftentimes God will tell us to go to our home. Turn to your neighbor and tell him, go to your home. Go to your home. So we're going to read together in Luke chapter 8, verses 26 through 39. Luke chapter 8, verses 26 through 39. If you have your Bibles, you can turn there. We're still in Luke. We're going to be in Luke for a little bit. And Jesus, of course, is in the process of doing his ministry. And this is what the author Luke writes. He says, then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. We'll talk about those two cities in a little bit, especially the Gerasenes city. So he's on his way from one location to another. When Jesus had stepped out onto land, when he got to his new location, Gerasenes, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time, he had worn no clothes. Welcome to church. And he had not lived in a house, but among the tombs. Happy belated Halloween, by the way. Not something we celebrate, but that text really kind of communicates that holiday in a sense. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, what have you to do with me? What a question that is. Here's a man, naked, living among tombs, possessed by demons. He encounters Jesus, and he simply says, what do you have to do with me? Now, all of you are clothed tonight, thank God, and hopefully none of you are living by the tombs, and hopefully none of you have demons. But I hope that you encounter Jesus in such a way tonight where it causes you to ask the question, Jesus, what do you have to do with me? Because there's a significant change that Jesus wants to make, not just in his life, but in your life as well. What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me. For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many a time it had seized him. So this is talking about this man's past life. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles. So the community literally locked this guy up. But he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. So just as much as God can give you a supernatural power and force, there are demonic powers and demonic forces that can also give you this sort of strength. Verse 30, Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion, for many demons had entered him." Legion is just a Roman military term to describe literally a team or even thousands of warriors in military. And so there's many demons possessing this one man. And the demons begged Jesus not to command them to depart into the abyss. The abyss is like the eternal lake of fire where Satan and all of his demons will one day go. The demons are asking Jesus, "Don't send us there." We'll come back to that in a little bit. Now, a large herd of pigs, this is a crazy story, right? We got a naked man among the tomb of the dead, and now we got some pigs to go with it. If you don't read the Bible, you're missing out. Now, a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him to let them enter these. So don't throw us into the abyss, the demons say, but please, Jesus, throw us into the pigs. More on that in a little bit. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and drowned. There goes the Camon Serrano. Come on, guys. That was funny. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told it into the city and in the country. The people went out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. What a transformation. Sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. And the people were afraid. And those who had seen it told them how the demon-possessed man had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country and the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. So we got into the boat and returned. Last one, guys. The man from whom the demons had gone, remember, this man who was naked, demon-possessed, living among the tombs, this man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with Jesus. But Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home. Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." I feel like that verse is for someone here tonight. I don't know who I'm speaking to, and I'm also not declaring that all of you guys should go to your home country. Please do not hear me saying that. But maybe for a particular person or for a handful of people, Jesus says, and I'm not even saying location-wise, I'm saying like maybe where you live here, like you've got family here or whoever, return to your home and declare how much God has done for you. And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. What a story. There's a lot in there. I would encourage you all to go back and read it. It's a lot. And I just noticed that my daughter's here on the front row, so I should have probably made it a little bit more G-rated. So, quiet crowd tonight. How many of you, like me, would love to own some real estate, some houses, apartments? Anyone out there? How many of you find yourself maybe every few weeks or months going on to and scrolling through houses and apartments hoping to be an owner, or just, that you want to have property to rent? You all feel that way, right? And for me, I'm not a real estate mogul, right? I'm not an expert. We do have one property in Florida. It's nothing fancy, but it's something. But I find myself oftentimes scrolling through these websites, filtering, 0 to 20,000, please, just, all right, nothing showed up. 0 to 50, nothing showed up. 0 to 100, still nothing. And, and so on and so forth. But do you guys know what the number one rule of real estate is? Anyone besides my wife? Someone in the back that didn't hear my wife. Does anyone know the number one rule of real estate? Location. Location, location, location. I think we got a slide. In case you forgot, the 3 rules of real estate are location, location, location. And I know that's not why you came to church today, so just bear with me. But I want you to know something, that your location and locations in general matter to Jesus. Let's start there. And primarily speaking, who you are matters more than where you are. We'll also start there. So God is more concerned about your character and who you are than even where you live or where you want to be. You follow him? But that's not to say that he does not care about where you are, where you want to be, or where certain things are. And so we see a lot about location in this text, and we're going to dive into it a little bit more. But the overall theme, the overall thesis of this talk is the following: that those who know you best in your circle of location, in your current place, those who know you best are often the ones impacted by God through you the most. Let me say that again. Those who know you best are often the ones impacted by God through you the most. The reason I say that is because there's a lot of speculations and theories as to why Jesus tells this man who was naked, demon-possessed, and living among tombs, he tells this man who is now clothed, sitting at the feet of Jesus, and in his right mind, this man wants to physically change locations to follow Jesus. And Jesus says, I want you to return to your home and declare that all that God has done. Why would Jesus say that? Because those who know you most will oftentimes see God at work in your life. Because who knows if God is working in your life, if God is truly transforming your life more than your home, more than your spouse, more than your kids, more than your parents, more than your cousins. Those who know you most will often be the ones that see the work of God in you and through you. So, again, Jesus not only cares about who you are, but where you are. There's a purpose for you being here during this season. There's a purpose for you ahead if you are on your way to a different place. There is a purpose that corresponds to the place you find yourself in. Can I get an amen? Location, location, location. 3 quick points, all right? Point number 1 is this, that in this text and in general, Jesus' location is strategic. It is not sporadic. Sporadic being random. Jesus has a plan. He is on a mission. He has a mission to lead and guide you to a specific location as well. Again, the text says that they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite of Galilee. He is on a mission. He's got a strategy. He knows where he is going. Location matters to Jesus. One of my favorite emails that we get probably weekly at Alicante Church, info@Alicante Church. By the way, if you ever need anything, you can email us at info@alicante.church. If you're trying to complain or you got, complaints or anything, you can email those to brian@alicante.church, okay? So one of my favorite emails that we get often are the emails from people who are not in Alicante yet, but they say, hey, we are planning to move to Alicante, and we want to verify that there is a life-giving church here. And I can't tell you how excited I am to get those emails. Be like, absolutely. Here's our website. Here's this. Here's that. Here's some photos. Here's a previous service. And it's really cool that we can be that for people. But what moves me even more, and sometimes they'll even ask for a Zoom call, and we'll FaceTime them. We'll Zoom with them, and it's a good interaction, a good experience. But what it shows me is that there are people on this planet that care about where they live. There are people on this planet that care about where they're going to. I can't tell you how many 20-year-olds I run into, and they're like, I think I might move to Japan or Jamaica. I'm not sure. No plan, no, research, just ideas, thoughts, and that's fine. If you're young and free, do you. But, there comes a point where you recognize in your walk with God that he has you in a specific place for a specific purpose, and it would be good of you to find out if where you're going can actually be a place of service for you. And the other thing I heard from another pastor, he told me this. He said, Anthony, never move for money. If it's just money you're moving for, don't do it. He's like, you got to search, you got to research, you got to find out. Are you moving just because of your job, or are you moving because you have a purpose? Jesus is the same way. He goes to Gerasenes, and he goes there with a purpose, on mission. Jesus has that same a passion and that same direction over your life. So here's something regarding location that I want us to think about in our walk with God. Often we choose where to live based on comfort rather than calling. On how easy life will be, not on how much we can serve or make an impact. So what's your filter for deciding where you live? Is it a job? Is it the weather? Is it someone there waiting for you? Have you considered to ask God about where you should live? Have you considered what he might say about it? So just know that that there is a purpose for the place that you find yourself in. I remember growing up in Madrid, my father would have to renew his NIE card from time to time. I can't remember if I've shared this story. If I have, I apologize. But I remember that he would have to get in line sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning in Madrid just to get in line to be able to renew his NIE card. You guys know the mess, the bureaucracy that is Spain, right? With renewing your paperwork and so forth. And I'll never forget, he tells the story of when he was there in line at 4 in the morning, and he's standing, he's got his documents, he's got his folder, and on the outside he's got his U.S. passport. And there's a guy behind him, and he's checking my dad up. He's checking my dad out, in just not in a romantic way, but he's just sizing him up a little bit, and he notices that my dad has his American passport in hand. And it's 4 o'clock in the morning, in this long line in the cold, waiting to get into this, the city hall place to renew his stuff. And he asked my dad, he says, Señor, ¿qué haces aquí? And, sir, what are you doing here? And my dad's like, well, I'm in line, to renew my passport, or renew my NIE card or whatever. And the guy stops, he says, I get it. But what are you doing here? And my dad continues, he says, I'm in line to renew my NIE card, It's 4 in the morning, so two guys talking at 4 in the morning. There's not much traction, right? And finally the guy says, no, I get that. But what are you doing in Spain with that passport when you could be living elsewhere in the U.S.? And finally it made sense to my father. And my father was able to have a good conversation with him. And he said, sir, I don't know how else to tell you other than the fact that God has called me to be here. God has called me to be here. God has a purpose for me being here in Madrid. And he shared about the ministry and about the Lord and just his leading. And you've got to get to a place in your life, church, where you don't choose a location based on a salary, based on the weather, Do you think my dad could be making some other money in the U.S. rather than standing in line at 4 in the morning outside of Madrid? Absolutely he could. But you have to find in your life where it is that God wants you, and you have to stay committed regardless of opportunities that arise. You've got to be clear in your heart who you're going to serve and where you are going to serve him. Amen? All right, so that's point number one. Point number two is this. Every location has a legion. Every location has a legion. By legion, I just mean demon. By demon, I mean an evil spirit. Some of you may not believe that demons exist. Some of you may not want to believe that. That's reality. I don't know what else to tell you. There is a seen world, and there is an unseen world. And wherever you go in the world, there is a demonic presence, there is a demonic force, oftentimes manifested in different ways, in different sinful habits in certain communities. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first of all, just to kind of give you some clarity about that there is an unseen world, Ephesians 6:12 says the following. The Apostle Paul writes to a church. He's writing a letter to the church, and he says, "We do not wrestle against flesh and blood." We don't wrestle against the seen world, right? The things that we can see. "But against the rulers and against the authorities and against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Evil exists. Turn to your neighbor and tell him evil exists. All you got to do is look at the news. We prayed, I don't know who it was that brought up Nigeria during the prayer talk today, during the volunteer huddle, but all you got to do is just look at the news and you will see the evil is manifesting itself in our day and age. Pastor Brian talked about that last week as well. Now, what does that have to do with location, right? What does that have to do with Jesus? Let's read it again. Verse 30, Jesus asked the demon-possessed man, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. So Jesus has gone from Galilee to Gerasenes. And in this place, it's now, he's encountered a man full of multiple demons. And these demons in Luke's gospel speak to Jesus, and they beg him to command them not to command them to depart into the abyss. Again, the abyss is where they will be eternally. I'm preaching it, sister. Thank you, Jennifer. I hear you in the back. That's my amen corner back there, man. She's got my back. I feel that. Get this, okay? Complicated. Jesus gets to one place. He encounters a man that is demon-possessed by multiple demons. As he's having this conversation, the demons tell him, "Do not throw us into the abyss. Do not throw us far away from here." Location matters. Here's why. They are asked to be thrown into the pigs. Look at Mark's version of this same story. Same demons having a conversation with Jesus. And he says he because he's probably speaking from the man's perspective, not the demons, but it's the same thing. He begged Jesus earnestly not to send them out of the country. Are you tracking? Or is this, is someone confused? I can take it. If anyone's confused. Okay, we got one in the back. Okay, these demons are having a discussion with Jesus. And they're saying, "Don't throw us away permanently forever into the lake of fire." Not only that, but in Mark's version, they say, "We have done so much work in this region, don't throw us away from the region. Because wherever you go, there is a demon waiting there to do their work." And just as angels do works, and churches do works, and there's good works being done to the glory of God, evil is also at work. There is an unseen world that tries their best to work certain regions in certain ways to get them away from God as much as possible. And these demons have a conversation with Jesus, and they say, do not send us out of the country. Why? Because they've got territory there. They've got work there. That's fine. You can send us out of the man, but keep us in the same country. Tell me location doesn't matter in your life. Tell me location doesn't matter. Now, a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him, send us into the pigs and let us enter there. Every location has a legion. Every location has a demon. Victoria and I were talking to a missionary who has served in Spain for over 30 years some months back. And he doesn't live in this region, but he's traveled all throughout Spain. And we were talking about this very thing. And he said that in Alicante in general and the surrounding regions, what he believes is that the forces at work or the oppression at work is manifested through lust. It's manifested through craving someone that is not your spouse, and or trying to get with someone and sleep with someone who is not your spouse, which, newsflash, that is sin. If you didn't know that, I'm just informing you. If you are currently sleeping with someone you are not married to, that is sin. And that is Satan at work in your life. That is opening up a door to demonic powers. It's not just a physical act. There is a supernatural, unseen world at work when you act in that way. So whether it's that or whether it's just here in the city in general, outside of the church, I mean, the amount of lust and the amount of meetings that I have with people who struggle with this sin is, I know it's common among men in general, but in this place, it's just so rampant. And I don't know if that has to do with the beach that we live by. I don't know if it has to do with just the weather. I don't know what it is, but I personally believe that we have to be aware of our surroundings. And if we're going to live in walk step with Jesus, we've got to understand not just who we are in him, but where we are living and how to be on our guard in this certain place. Is that making sense? So every location has a legion. And some questions to ask yourself. Am I aware of my surroundings? Have I really thought through how is the enemy attacking my life? I tell you what, anyone with Wi-Fi these days, the enemy is using this. We've got to be fully aware of where we are and the day and age in which we live. Am I surrounding myself with Christian brothers and sisters? Am I slipping into the same sins that dominate my culture? Think about that. Am I living the way my culture is living? And if so, maybe Satan is at work in my life. The demons in this region are at work in my life because every location has a legion. Last point, and Blake, you can come on up and you can start that pad. Thank you, brother. Last point is this. Jesus is often most visible when you're at home. Again, we're talking about location. We're talking about going to our home, right? Jesus is often most visible when you're at home. Remember, this man is naked. He is demon-possessed. He's living among tombs. Jesus heals him, and he is now sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. What a transformation that is, by the way. What a transformation that is. No matter what you walked in with tonight, you can leave transformed by the power of Jesus. That's how good he is. That's how powerful he is. This man gets to this point of healing. He gets to this point of sanity. He gets to this point of communion with Jesus. And who wouldn't want to walk with Jesus as he leaves that region? Who wouldn't want to say goodbye to Gerasenes and just be like, peace out. I had my stay there in the tombs, and I'm out of here, you know? And as he tries to pursue Jesus physically, Jesus says, return to your home. Return to your home. And I fully believe that it not only says return to your home, but return to your home and declare that all that God has done for you. And I fully believe that what Jesus is implying here, what Jesus is communicating, is that those who know you best will see God the most when you're around. They knew who he was. They knew him as the naked man, possessed by demons, living among the tombs. And in that moment, he gets healed, and Jesus says, stay here. Stay right here, because you can reach these people with this testimony. My question to you, church, tonight is this: is God transforming your life in such a way that those closest to you can tell the difference? Is God transforming your life in such a way that those closest to you can sense something new about you? In the words of Mother Teresa, when she was asked, what's the best way to change the world? How many of you want to change the world for the good? Not a trick question. I want the world to be changed too. And they ask this saint, right, this patriarch, they say, Mother Teresa, what's the best way to change the world? You know what she said? Go home and love your family. Go home and love your family. And don't get me wrong, I'm a missionary. I love missions trips. I'm all about, let's go out, let's go and make a difference, right? But oftentimes, the most challenging part of your walk with Jesus is not going to make a difference out there, but it's going and being different in your home. It's going and loving your wife differently, speaking for myself. It's going and treating your kids differently. It's going and treating your neighbors differently. You start close, because if you can't do it at home, you shouldn't do it at all. So Jesus tells this man to go home and to declare all that God has done for you. Would you stand to your feet tonight, church family? When it comes to location and where you want to be and where you're not, where you're moving to, etc., Jesus cares. We've learned that tonight, that Jesus cares about location. I'm going to leave you with one final verse from the Gospel of John. Jesus says, in my Father's house are many rooms. Not many tombs, but many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place, a new location for you, I will come back again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. The best location for you is with Jesus. And I have good news for you, that he is preparing a place for you and for me. And in the remaining of the verse, Thomas says, Lord, one of his disciples says, Lord, how will we know? How will we know the way to get to this new location that you've got for us? And he says, Thomas, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Anyone who comes to the Father will come through me. So if you want to make sure that you get out of Gerasenes, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. If you want to make sure that you get out of tombs, if you want to make sure that you get out of nakedness and shame and demon possession, whatever sin has you trapped, take that step to the feet of Jesus. He'll make you sane, he'll clothe you, he'll heal you, and he'll give you a place for eternity for you to dwell with him. Amen.